This is the Halftime Oranges podcast, brought to you by Keegs and Dicky. Welcome back to the Halftime Oranges podcast. Today we sit down with a wee bit of a journeyman. He's played footy in, I believe, 5 different countries, has 13 caps, international caps for Canada, and his last accomplishment, one of my favourites, I believe he's one of very few men to travel to Turkey and still return bald. We sit down with the great man, Shane O'Leary. How are you, Shane?
I'm good, boys. I'm good. It's definitely my proudest accomplishment, that last one there. Not many people are strong enough to do that, but I decided to do it. So, no, all good. Thanks for having me on, lads. Good to obviously catch up. We're just saying that we're in 3 different countries all over the world, so it's good what you can do with technology these days.
It is good. It's very good. Dickie, how are you, mate? All good?
Yeah, not too bad, lads. Obviously, nice to meet Big Shano. Can we call do you get called Shano much, or?
Yeah, Shano, whatever you want. Anything you want to call me. I've definitely been called worse. So.
Shano and Sano. I'm well, Keegs. How are you, mate?
Nah, all is good here in Italy. All is good. Shano, you're currently in lovely Miami, just getting ready for the MLR season coming up with the Miami Sharks, I believe. How's life over there?
Yeah, it's good, bro. We're into week 4 of preseason, so I've been working hard, and it tends to be something that I don't like doing too often, but you have to do a preseason every so often. But yeah, no, it's going good, man. It's nice. Like, obviously, it's roasting every day. Like, it's January, and they're saying it's cold when it's 26 degrees outside, and I'm absolutely melting. Like, I'm like, this is cold. What do you mean? Like, they're like, wait till March. It'll be 30 degrees when you wake up in the morning. Fuck, you know. So yeah, it's obviously a challenge. Like, I think you just the sessions you're doing, like, we've had 1 or 2 days where it's been like 15 degrees, and I'm like, oh, I feel fit as fuck, and then it's 28 degrees again, and it's just like I can barely even do the warm up without fucking dying. So no, it's good, man. It's a nice way of life. Obviously, it's pretty much summer every day, so that's obviously good. And we're training out of Inter Miami's facilities, so we haven't got to see Messi yet or anything like that. But it's a cool spot. Like, you know, it's mental. It's mental. Like, you think he's big and famous. Wait till you're in the same facility as him, and they're like, your code of ethics: be on time, wear the right kit, no pictures of Messi. And you're like, what? We're like, all right. And there's security guards in every door to all the facilities. So it's mental, but it's obviously a good little spot to be training out of. And gearing up, we've got our first game this Friday, first preseason game, so that'll be a bit of fun.
Lovely. How have you found going, obviously, because you came straight out of the cookie season, so you theoretically should have been fairly fit. How's it been going straight into like a preseason? That been sort of a little bit tougher?
I've actually, it helped me massively. Like, I think in the last 2 years, I hadn't played a whole lot of rugby before MLR last year. Like, I played a couple of times with like a junior 3 club at home, my original club, Scariff. Shout out to Scariff. And like, before that, I'd been off for kind of the bones of like 18 months. I think between my first game with the Arrows and my last pro game before that, it was like 650 days or something, with my adductor injury. So I kind of just wanted to keep going. Like, I was like, oh, I'm kind of hitting stride, a bit of form at the end of the year, but it's not great hitting stride at the end of the year, is it? So I was like, okay, I'll go back to where Ashley, my missus, is from, play some club rugby there. And then I was quite keen to keep playing, especially I find with my adductors, when I actually stop, it's like then I have to reintroduce them to the load. I have to get used to like all the change of direction stuff again, which takes time. Where when I did that, when I came in with the Arrows, like, I hadn't been playing rugby, and after week 1, my body was like, "What the fuck is happening here? You need a holiday." I'm only just back, so I think playing with the cookies was good, man. Obviously, we had a good bunch of boys there. I really enjoyed it, and yeah, came into preseason feeling fairly fit, definitely match fit. Like, you can see some of the boys that haven't played since last season. We're obviously blowing a bit more in the first couple of sessions where I felt good, but I mean, when you crank the heat up to 28, 30 degrees, I'm absolutely dying as well. So, so I don't know if I was that fit, but fitter than normal.
Wow, yeah, the 28 is certainly a bit of a shock compared to what the bloody 0 degrees we were having fucking training down in Limerick.
Yeah. freezing debates, yeah. But yeah, no, it's a shock, but it's obviously a nice shock. You'd rather be going that way than the other way, the 28 down to 0.
Was the decision to jump ship to Miami influenced A, by playing inside Keegan at Cookies, and B, by the Cookies having some struggles this season? Did that influence your decision to jump ship early?
Well, if I knew Keegan was off to Italy, I'd probably still be in Limerick, wouldn't I? So, no. The contract with Miami was signed back in July or August, I think. So that was before I got back to Cookie Land as well. And then I can't remember what the second half of the question was. I just want to take the piss out of Keegan.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you nailed both of them, regardless.
Yeah. He's an easy target. We can't pick on him too much.
On that, Shane, did you, because obviously you're Toronto who now have gone under, which is very unfortunate, but so if you're saying you'd signed that back in June, so you'd signed that before you knew anything about them potentially going under?
Yeah, so I did. So at the end of the season, I really enjoyed last year. Like, I come from France where I had a pretty poor experience dealing with rugby out there. My injury, I wasn't looked after, ended up financially in a hole coming back. Like, they didn't support any of that stuff, the rehab and stuff, or the surgery, which they sent me for. So it's obviously a bit mental. So I really enjoyed my time in the Arrows, even though we weren't that successful on the pitch. Like, the boys were working hard. They cared about you. They looked after you, kind of in true Canadian fashion, you know. So I really enjoyed that. But then the end of the season came and they were kind of humming and hawing. Like, they were like, "Oh, we're not ready to offer a contract to your position group." And then, like, the other 10 was my best mate. So, like, I spoke to him and I was like, "Were you offered?" He's like, "Yeah, they want to keep me." I was like, "What?" So I was getting missed messages, and then all of a sudden I was put into the expansion draft. Miami is a new franchise. So I was actually quite upset the fact that they didn't want to keep me. I played pretty well towards the back end of the year, like I said, and kicking my goals. I must have been 85+% at goal, like, for a team that was struggling. It was obviously one of the only ways we were accumulating points, really. So, like, I think that kind of had gone well. And then they didn't want me. And I honestly, man, I was gutted with that. Like, I really wanted to go back. Obviously, having that Canadian heritage, like you said, having played for the national team, I wanted to do that again. But then into the expansion draft, Miami selected me as they were interested to have a chat. And then we had a chat and kind of, you know, it's like once you've been rejected somewhere, you don't really know if you want to go back anymore. Like, you know, I probably could have pushed it and kind of not signed for Miami and gone back through the allocation or whatever from the league. But then obviously getting to move down here to Florida and experience that kind of lifestyle, you know, like with the heat, which is something, like you said, you don't get at home. You definitely don't get it in Toronto in the winter. We trained in 30 degrees here. In Toronto, we trained in like minus 31 one day. Obviously, we're training in the dome inside, but like, we're talking 60 degrees difference in preseason. I was like, so yeah, signed kind of that way, lads. So it kind of came around as like a bit of a backhanded kind of situation. You know, I was gutted, but then obviously it happened, and then the Arrows went under, and everyone was like, "Fucking hell, lad, you've dodged a bullet there." You know, I was absolutely sickened. But then obviously, like you said, you get signed here, and it's obviously a pretty cool spot and pretty famous spot around the world to get to go and live and chase an egg around the park. So, not my egg, the actual rugby ball.
Thank God for that. Yeah, it was almost like a blessing in disguise in a way. Obviously, you were gutted, but saved you a whole lot of drama sort of late in the, like, not long before the season sort of started, sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's some guys like that haven't picked up gigs, like, you know, and like, there's some real impressive CVs and stuff, especially some of the international boys, because all the international allocation spots are already taken, you know. So it's like, how are they going to fit them in there, you know? And a lot of them didn't get picked up, and some of those boys are internationals, you know. So it's kind of been a bit of a whirlwind for those lads. So obviously, like you said, blessing in disguise. And like I said, I'm not too unhappy that I'm down here in South Florida.
Yeah, for sure. We're just gonna shoot into a couple of questions that we had. We'll just do a few questions throughout the episode, Shana. First one I've got: who is your favourite Mudmen player?
Oof, coming in hot from Charlottetown, PEI here. My favourite one, I'm gonna go with Sketchy. Sketchy's my favourite one. Probably because he didn't ask this question, but he got an interesting name, which could lead us to stories. But I don't know how many of them are PG enough for a podcast, so we'll go with sketchy.
Okay, that's cool. And then the second one, how good was the young Munster under-20 Donald Walsh winning team?
It was a mental group of players. Like, we kind of had a couple of club guys that joined the club in the Cookies that year. You obviously had some of the underage boys, and then you kind of had this big influx of schools players where we had it was a weird team. Like, we kind of just all came together. The year before, 20s, we hadn't been great. We'd all been really young, and then this year we just got a couple of schools guys in, added to the guys that were there, and we were like really dominant. We won the Southwest Conference, which was good, and it was kind of like, just kind of that brotherhood bond that it just kind of formed. Like, a good few of the schools guys that came in were already really good mates, and we'd been kind of mates with them from like underage stuff at Munster and stuff. And then we just they came in and it just clicked, and it's easy to have a good brotherhood when you're winning every week. It's obviously fun, but you win it every weekend, out in the beers as a group, like real good togetherness, and then we lost the All-Ireland quarterfinal. But up until then, it was absolutely mega. So it was.
Nah, that's good stuff. So we're just going through your career. You've left school. I believe you went back to your underage or original club, and then you've gone to Young Munster. How long did you play for them for originally?
My original club are the Cookies.
So the Cookies. I was meaning the Cookies. Yeah.
So I joined them. I think I was just out of school. I played like an under 18 or 19s cup with my club at home, and then I went in to them as I joined up with the Munster 19s. So did that pre-season with the 19s, then went and played with the Cookies, did 20s, played with the Cookies, and then the following summer I went and played Canada U20, and coming back from that, then I headed off to the Grenoble Academy. So it was kind of only 2 years. But then after Grenoble, I came back when I'd signed for Connacht and played another season with them. And then after Connacht, I'd come back again, but then moved to the Championship in England. So overall, I've had about 5 stints with the Cookies, or 4 stints with the Cookies, but it's kind of always a place that I've wanted to come back to, I was saying to my dad, joking a few years ago, the 2 clubs I wanted to play for before I retired were Scariff and New Munsters, and I've done both of them now. So it's kind of funny how you kind of went back to the boyhood club to get the first run out again, after being out for a year and a half, and then join back up with the Cookies and try and play at the highest standard in the country at club level. So there you go. Don't know if I answered it or not, but
No, that's cool. What was so you played for Canada under-20s? I believe you went to the 2013 World Cup with them. You guys come second that year?
Yeah. So it was actually the World Trophy. So it was like the second division one. But it's funny, before we went, we played against the States, like in a doubleheader, one weekend, the following weekend in Minnesota, and they were off to the World Cup, and we pumped them in both games by like 30 points. We were like, oh, fuck, we should be going to the World Cup. It's unfair. We should go. But then they went and lost by about 100 points to Australia and South Africa in the same group. And I was like, fuck, we weren't there. We ended up going to a place called Temuco in Chile, and we lost to Italy in the final. I think we lost like 31-16 or something. But with about 10 minutes to go, I think we were 17-16 down and got 2 yellow cards, and it was just the arse fell out of it. But that was a cool trip, obviously, like for a young fella. I'd been on holidays with my family once or twice, but never really been abroad that much. And then all of a sudden you're in South America. I was like, what the hell is going on here? This is class. I even felt tall down in Chile because they were all short, which is the first time for that as well. But no, it was obviously a cool experience, getting to play underage international. Obviously, being born in Ireland and growing up there, like I wanted to play Irish 20s, but it didn't materialise. So it was another avenue to, I suppose, look into. And yeah, it went ahead and it went well, and obviously enjoyed it and managed to get a academy spot in Grenoble then after that. So
just from my understanding, so one of your parents Canadian, or how was your eligibility for Canada? How did that come about?
Yeah, so mum was born in Canada, lived there till she was about 18 months old, and then moved to Ireland. So getting on the technicality, all right, of where you were born. So mum's a stronger Irish accent than I would have, but my grandmother, who lives in Ireland now, she still has her Canadian accent, even though she's lived in Ireland for whatever 58, 60 years, so that's how I would have qualified all right. But at the start, they were definitely asking a few questions. They were like, "So how are you?" And they were like, "Oh, we're not trying to be rude, but can you send through your mum's birth cert?" Those kind of things. So,
Did you, and how did they, you being in Ireland and Canada being obviously in North America, how did you get on the radar to get picked up by their under-20s team? Because I imagine, I'm not too sure how it works, but obviously being in Ireland and playing over there, it's a fair distance away from Canada to all of a sudden, have eligibility that they obviously had to check to get on their radar. So how did you send through a few highlights or just get sort of picked up or what?
So the whole Irish thing didn't happen. My dad said tongue in cheek one day, he was like, "Oh, why didn't you go play for Canada?" And I was like, and honestly at the time, like rugby in Canada wasn't big. I didn't even know they had an under-20 team. And then he was like, "Hang on, actually, let me Google that." And he looks up their website, finds a guy by the name of Mike Shelley from Leeds in Yorkshire in the UK, and sent him an email being like, "Hi Mike, I'm Canadian qualified. When's the story with the 20s? Any chance of a trial or whatever?" And he came back with a few emails, and then before you knew it, they booked a flight for me to travel over. So it's kind of a funny one. It kind of always goes back to, man, if you don't ask for things, like nothing happens for you, So send the email, see what happens. Worst they're going to say is no.
Yeah, that's wicked.
Yeah. So after that, Shanna, you went to Grenoble. You've had 2 stints in France, I believe, both with the Pro D2. You sort of just touched on before with the injury and stuff, but overall, like, what's sort of your experience over there been like? Like, have you found it?
So my first stint, obviously I was 19 or 20 years old and didn't have a clue what was going on, I was going over, you get to play rugby, we'll give you €400 a month in a room. Sweet. Happy days, going over on nothing, but I just got to run around the pitch every day, so I was over the moon. So Grenoble were actually top 14 my first season when I went over, and I was picked to play, I was something like, I don't know, 78 kilos or 80 kilos or something. I was picked to play in the third game of the top 14 away to Perpignan against Lafimi Maffei, who's a Munster hero, Larry Murphy as they called him or whatever, and someone I would have idolised growing up. Fucking hell, this is mental. Also, he's a tank, and I'm a tiny little child. But there ended up being some administrative error on the academy's part, so I wasn't actually registered to play top 14. Classic French error, so that ended up not happening. So I was gutted over that, obviously. And then, so I actually made my pro debut. It was against Viadana. Oh no, sorry, it was against Bayonne away. And then that was Challenge Cup. So that's where I ended up playing 5 games that season with Grenoble. And it was cool, man. The 10 was Blair Stewart from New Zealand, who played with the the Hurricanes and that, who was an absolute legend. And he kind of mentored me a bit, put the arm around me. I didn't have a clue what was going on. Like I said, young, first time properly living away from home, and in an academy building with 39 other lads, an Irish lad, a Polish lad, and a Tongan lad, and the rest of them were French, so, sounds like the start of a bad joke. So it was good. There's Andrew Farley was there as well, the Aussie who captained Connacht and who played with Ireland A, and then James Hart, one of the scrum halves there, was an Irish lad as well as Mike Prendergast, who's obviously Munster's attack coach now. He was coaching their skills coach, and Bernard Jackman was the defence and breakdown coach. So there was a good influx of Irish people there, so that obviously made that easier for me. But like you said, man, I didn't really have my first time living away from home, first time at a pro club. I didn't know how things were supposed to run. I was just happy to be there and thought that crazy French coaches were normal, which turns out after I've been in a few more clubs, they're not. But no, so that was good. And then my second stint was with Rouen in the Pro D2, which when I came over, there was an English lad, Richard Hill was the head coach. So that was obviously good. He'd speak English and French. My French is decent enough. It was very good at the end of my second stint. So I was able to do it. The second season was with a French coach. But then obviously, like I said, got injured and got absolutely fucking sewered by them. So there's not too much good to say about the club from the second stint. I think it was, I think if you're putting your body on the line for a club, the least they can do is look after you. And that wasn't the case. So that was obviously disappointing. But overall, enjoyed my time in France. It's cool to experience a new culture like you're doing now and just see the different way of life. it's pretty laid back in France and Italy in terms of getting things done and working hard. So yeah, no, I enjoyed it overall. I feel like I grew a lot as a person through the 2 stints. Obviously, I'm fairly bilingual now, which is a cool skill to have as well. And yeah, you learn a lot about yourself when you're thrown into the deep end like that, and you kind of got to fend for yourself because they're not always the best at helping the foreign players settle, I suppose.
Mm. Did you find, obviously, with when you were with Grenoble, obviously you were young, but they were in the top 14, and then with Rouen, did you find much of a difference in level between the two clubs?
Yeah, I suppose you probably would. Like there was more like big names, like Ollie Barkley was there, who played for England a load of times, and he was a big dog. In Grenoble when I was there, there other guys that would have been big dog, like Peter Kimlin came, we played with Australia, these kind of guys. So there's some real established players when I got there. So obviously, like being young, you're in awe of these guys. Like you're never going to really try and meet them head on in training and stuff. Like, or that's the way I was anyway. And then when I went to Rouen, I was obviously much more established in my career. I wanted to go in and be the starting 10. So I came in probably stopping my foot and things a bit more, where the first time I was probably just happy to be there, which is fair enough. So in terms of the difference though, like Grenoble were an established club, like, and I remember being ball boy for one of the games. They throw you €100 or whatever, ball boy, happy days. That makes €500 that month. Absolute bags of cash. But I remember standing on the sideline and Johnny Wilkinson is absolutely slotting kicks from the touchline in a packed out Stade des Alpes. The whole thing is full, and then Grenoble scoring the last play and beat Toulon at home, like, and they've got an outrageous team, Wilkinson at 10, Gito at 12, Bastro at 13, Drew Mitchell on the wing. You're like, Habana on the other wing. Like, this is insane. Like, how am I even beside the pitch here? So I think seeing the caliber of player like that was obviously class. And then the Pro D2 the second time, you've got some guys that are at the back end of their career, like Stefan Armitage, who's obviously played for England a lot, was playing there. There was a couple of ex-All Blacks that would have played in the Division 2. So you get to play against some quality players still, but they're probably more towards the tail end of their career as opposed to leaving from New Zealand and come and signing for a mid-table team in the Pro D2. They're obviously going top 14 for a lot more cash and was higher level of rugby. So there's probably a bit of a discrepancy, but I think I was so young the first time, like I said, like I couldn't really put it against each other too obviously.
Yeah.
You mentioned you had your injury there, and that the French club didn't look after you too well. Are you happy if I ask a couple of questions about that?
Yeah.
Just from the fact that I've heard from other people as well that when you go over to a French club, I'm not too sure if it was D1 or D2, but someone was telling me that it's a different sort of type of rugby over there, and the fact that it's quite strict or around your training, and then they found that the coaching was quite like the coach's way or the highway. I think they sort of had a French coach at whatever club they were at, and they didn't really find that it was too much like player and coach interaction. Obviously, you had a few Irish coaches there and foreign coaches in there as well. But I was just wondering around the fact of how that dynamic was between sort of players interacting with the coaching, and if you could drive it yourself, and then regarding your injury and the fact that how they sort of, or what actually happened regarding how they looked after you or whatnot.
Yeah, so I think that from the coaching perspective, I'm not going to say it was their way or the highway, but it was kind of like they were like, "Oh, come to us with stuff if you want to try and implement it." Then you go, and then they'd shut it down. And if you're like, "Yeah, we'll look at that later," or "No, that's not a good idea," and I'm like one of our coaches, like real nice guy, but hadn't coached like professional rugby at that level, and then kind of like just wanted things that was so counterintuitive to what I'd learned throughout my 8-year career at that stage. So obviously, like, not butted heads in terms of a disrespectful way, but like would try and get my point across, and it mightn't always come across, or he wouldn't allow it, or he'd go, yeah, okay, move on. And you'd be like, okay, well, actually, this is really important, like really important, and we're not getting success the other way. So, so it was probably a small bit of his way or the highway, but not in a nasty way either, if you know what I mean, from my experience. And then in terms of my injury, lad, so like I came back season 2. Did the first 6 weeks of preseason, felt absolutely fantastic, getting fit, strong, everything was moving well. And then we had a week off or 5 days off or whatever, came back, and our first day back, we did like a triple session, and my body was goosed after it. I woke up in the morning, doctors were really sore, and kind of was just like, oh, like I'm not feeling good, like, you know, like I'm feeling real bad today. And they're like, okay, just watch, like maybe do some of the skills or whatever. I was like, okay, grand. And then we did day off and wasn't feeling any better. The Thursday, still wasn't feeling great. First preseason game on the Friday, they were like, oh, well, you're down to start. Like, and I was like, all right, fucking strap it up, go on, wrap the leg up, and kind of got through that game. But then after the game, I was absolutely fucked. Like I could barely run anymore, that kind of way. So kind of we started looking at, okay, how are we gonna look after this? And it was kind of like, oh, like the injury was osteitis pubis, and I'd torn adductor tendon, where the adductor longus meets the pubic bone. But I was getting pain down both my adductors and up into my abs as well. So like stuff like, I remember I got to the stage where I couldn't sit up on my own. Like I'd have to roll onto my side. My missus would roll me onto my side to get out of bed. Like the best part of the week was when we used to go grocery shop, which I fucking hate doing. But I got to hold the trolley, so it would support me. Like, do you know what I mean? So I didn't have to hold myself up. Like that's where I got to, and it was kind of like I was being shipped out to train, and then it'd be like, okay, take 2 weeks off. Okay, come on now, you can play. You've had your rest. Which, as I found out afterwards, like rest is not what you fucking need when you have that injury. Like you're massively imbalanced, so all the tendons and everything are flared up, so they're all real angry. You're probably weak in your glutes, like overactive in your hip flexors and quads and stuff like that. So like I just wasn't recovering, and their message was you need rest. But the real thing is I needed to rehab, and I wasn't getting rehabbed. Like I wasn't being looked after in terms of that. The doctor was a great man, like a real nice guy and everything. He probably just hadn't seen an injury like this before. He was a young doctor. The other thing, I was pawned off to a young S&C coach then as well, who again wasn't necessarily a bad S&C coach, but he was just probably out of his depth in terms of this. Physios didn't do much for me. And then it was kind of like, okay, let's give you an injection with big anti-inflam. So in between, your pubic bone is two bones that meet, and there's like a half centimeter, like a 50 millimeter gap in between them. And the thing was, right, we're going to put a big ass needle in there and inject it with anti-inflam. So they did that, and then I rehabbed for whatever 3 or 4 weeks, and I was like, Jesus. The next day I was like, oh my god, I feel good. Like I can sit up. I'm not in complete agony, you know, and grand. And you get back, but the anti-inflam lasted about 3 months. I think I rehabbed for like 6 or 7 weeks. First came back, broke my finger. Fantastic, high ball, last play of the game. My hand now is disgusting, as you can see. If anyone's looking, watching. So that was obviously unfortunate. And then it was like, come on, you can play. I was like, you do realize I touched the ball in every phase and my hand is broken. Like I'm in agony every time. So it gave me like a straight cast or whatever. My finger was just fixed straight. Shoot the most Tom Brady rugby pass ever. And then stinking, terrible. But so then I took a few weeks off with that, like 3 or 4 weeks, and then I was kind of pressured to get back on the pitch. So like I said, wore the cast, threw the pass, and the last play of the game after 60 minutes, feeling good, goal kicking well, everything feeling good. Go to throw an offload and get tackled, and I was fending him, and he kind of wrapped around me in whatever way. I like felt a pop in my adductor, and I was like, fuck's sake. So I'm limping off the pitch, get off the pitch. The coach's like, oh, what's wrong with you? Like, oh, like adductor's sore. He's like, oh, again or something. I was like, mate, are you having a fucking laugh? Like, obviously get grabbed back and fucking lost my head. His Keeks nose can be hot-headed occasionally. So that was grand then. Ended up like couldn't play or sat on the bench the following week, played 1 minute, and even during the warm-up for the game, like I couldn't jog in the end ball line. I was like, I'm fucked here. Like I was like, if I have to go on for anything more than like 10 seconds, I'm gonna be in a bad way, you know? So anyway, came on, played like a minute, and that was the last I played for the club, and that was in November time, I think. So obviously didn't play for the rest of the season. But after that, another injection, decided to do this mesotherapy thing, which is like a tiny needle, maybe like 10 millimeters tall or a centimeter tall or whatever, and they just like jab you. Like, so I was getting jabbed above my pubic bone like 50 times with that thing. First you're fine, and then it starts to swell and builds up, and like you're bleeding, and I was just like, this is shit, mate. Like, what is going on here? Like, you know, I was like, can I please go see a specialist now? Like, we've done this. I've had another big injection into my pubic bone. Not feeling as good this time. Like, the rehab was kind of just a small bit blind, and like I was just like, we're not fucking getting anywhere. I was like, here, I need to go for an MRI. I need to go for another MRI. I need to go see a specialist. Went to see the specialist, and then he's like, oh yeah, you've a tear in your adductor tendon. He's like, did they not see that the first time? I was like, no, sir. And like every time I was kicking the ball, like I was in a heap on the floor. I was like in bits. So then eventually he's like, oh yeah, you need surgery. I was like, oh, fantastic. Wonderful news. So decided to go with that after speaking with the club. The club didn't want me to come. Came to see a guy in Ireland. They didn't want me to go see him because it was going to be too expensive. He was looking for like $1,000 a day or something, or $3,000 a week or something hectic. They're like, no, it's too expensive. Go see our surgeon here. We've one of the best in the world, whatever. To be fair, he has operated on like Neymar, Ibrahimovic, all these boys, Marco Verratti, all these soccer players who are like, they're not skimping out on surgeons or anything. The club sent me to see this guy. Saw him, had my surgery. I actually got COVID in the first day, which is fantastic. So that was cancelled. So it was pushed back. So then had the surgery, and then it was like, oh, you pay for it, we'll reimburse you. I was like, oh, all right, okay. I'd rather you just paid for it. So came out of my surgery a few hours later, walked downstairs, and they're like, oh, you got to walk up 2 blocks to pay. What the fuck is going on here? So I'm hobbling up like an old lady, walking up thinking, why am I walking? I've just had surgery on my adductors, both of them, and my lower abdomen. I was goosed. Get up there, and I was like, oh, here's my card, I got to pay. And they're like, oh, we don't take card, you got to go to the ATM down the block. I was like, Jesus. You fucking having a laugh? I was like, how far? She's like, oh, like 4 blocks down there. I literally looked at my missus, and I was like, can you please go and do this? Like, I need to fucking sit down. I am in agony. So then eventually paid for that. We got home. No elevator in the building, so I had to walk up 5 flights of stairs and then lay on the couch for a week. So that was grand. Like, obviously they didn't pay for it, whatever. And then I'm waiting to hear about my rehab. I'm supposed to be leaving the next morning. I'm like, here, what's the fucking story? Like, what is the story with rehab? When am I going? Blah, 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 blah. So eventually went down to the first block of rehab, which was covered by, like, it's funny, in France, the medical stuff is all covered by this thing called your carte vitale. So this one was covered by that. And then I think it was like €50 more to not have a shared room. It's pretty much a hospital room, like, you know. So they were like, oh, we have no shared rooms. Like, do you want to upgrade? Yeah. Do you want to pay for it? No. Okay, well, we have no shared rooms. Here you go. I was like, sweet. So at least got that done. Did that for 2 or 3 weeks, then came home, and I was supposed to be going to the surgeon's facility, which is like renowned for this injury in the country. Like, he's done, his rehab guy has done like Stan Wawrinka, the tennis player, who's been top 100 for whatever, 10 years, 15 years. Like, so quality again. Went there, and the day before the club were like, oh, we're not paying for that. I was like, what do you mean you're not paying for that? You're the fucking one that set me up with this. Like, you know, this isn't me, my plan. I'm in a foreign country. I don't even know how it works. So then sent me an email saying, oh, we're not paying for it, blah, blah, blah. I was like, fuck, man, I got to go here and then try and argue my case with them. So that was like something like €800 or €900 a week. So that was obviously massively expensive. And I think I did 4 weeks there or 5 weeks there. So they obviously gave me a deal down to like €900 a week. It's supposed to be like 12 or €1,300 a week. So I was looking at the bones of 6 or 7K again. And then, so paid for that, and then went back to the original one, the free one again, which was nowhere near as good, and ended up being in more pain after that second block of 2 or 3 weeks than I was after being at obviously the expensive joint. So I came home then, and I didn't get one message from the club for the entire time I was away. So for the entire 7 or 8 weeks, I tried ringing the president 2 or 3 times, no answer. Tried ringing the coach 2 or 3 times, no answer, no messages back. The only person that had coordinated with me at all was the doctor, who, as I said, was a good lad, who really did try and help me out. Got back, and then the first thing, walking in, the coach goes, oh, Shayna, so sorry I didn't return your calls. I was like, mate, it hasn't been 2 days, like, it's been fucking 9 weeks. You know, and he was like, oh, sorry, I've been really busy, blah, blah, blah. I was doing a rehab run that afternoon, and he's out chipping golf balls on the pitch with the other coaches. I was like, come on, you don't give a fuck about me at all, like, you know. So then I set up a meeting with the president to ask him about, like, obviously getting reimbursed for whatever, touching €10,000 at this stage, including all the travel up and down the country, which was whatever, a couple €100 each way in the car. And he's like, no, we told you on, look, I have it here, email, March 10th, that we wouldn't pay for your surgery. I was like, mate, I had fucking surgery on the 10th of February. Like, what you on about? Like, and then he was just like, no. And I was like, here, you're having a fucking laugh. Like, you don't treat players right, whatever. He wasn't budging on it. So obviously just kind of, I suppose there was nothing I could do. Like, spoke to like the players' representatives about getting reimbursement. They're like, look, they've given you insurance, even if it's basic insurance, they haven't technically broken the law, so there's nothing we can do. Fantastic. So then went home, and then they kept my last month's salary for damaged springs in the car door, which was 5 months old. So yeah, it was left on a pretty sour note, mate. Like, so which brings the bill up to about 12K, and then I had to pay for my own the rehab again in Ireland. When I went to see your man in Ireland, it wasn't the guy that was like a K a day. It was like his right hand man, who was absolutely fantastic. Stand by the absolute legend, an Aussie bloke who sorted me out. But the first day he saw me, he's like, "When did you have surgery?" I was like, "Oh, like 5 months ago." He's like, "Yeah, it looks like you had surgery about a week ago, mate. Like, you're that weak." I was like, "Oh, fantastic." He's like, "Yeah, so it's gonna be another 12, 16 weeks before you can play." I was like, "Holy fucking god!" It's supposed to be a 12-week return to play, like, and then we're touching 9 months, and it was like stuff like, okay, tie the band around the rack and just turn your knee out. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my mind. And take into account I'd already been rehabbing for like 6 or 7 months before I even played it, or before I even had my surgery. So it was like, I was just like, oh my God, I'm not even a fucking rugby player anymore. Like, I'm a cripple. But anyway, I managed to get back and eventually get over the whole, then, like I said, getting used to the load and getting used to training again was so hard. Like, it was like, do this, like, you're going to be in pain for a bit, like, and then you recover and you'll be back and moving that way. So eventually, like, at the end of the season with the Arrows, like, I've been sore the whole time, had a month off, settled that down a bit, smashing rehab, and then wasn't as sore after training with them. And then with the Cookies, I was pretty good for the most part. I think I had only one flare up, and it was a week where I upped my goal kicking a lot before we played UCD. But after that, I was fine, like, in every minute of the game on the pitch, that kind of way, So, well, I might get a hard time for being on the physio table a bit. On the physio table all the minutes and on the pitch all the minutes now. So we'll take it. So yeah, I was honestly, that it was a fucking nightmare. Like, I didn't know if I wanted to play rugby anymore. Come the end of it, like, and it just felt so inhumane, like, and unjust that I get absolutely fucking shafted like that when all I've done is try and play for the club. Like, I played 26 games and 14 starts my first season, so it's not like I rocked on and wasn't playing, like, I played 26 out of 30 games. So, and I didn't play the other ones because I got a concussion playing for the club. So sorry, just have no hips or a brain for the rest of my career from playing in France. But sorry. So yeah, it was obviously shit, like, but I suppose you move on. Like I said, had a good season in Toronto, even though we weren't winning games. I enjoyed it and kind of got the love of the game back, and then really enjoyed my time with the Mudmen and PEI, and again with the Cookies, and I'm enjoying it here so far. So yeah, we're back feeling good about rugby again, but it was obviously a bit of getting thrown into a tumble dryer a small bit. It's the first time I proper didn't enjoy rugby, like, and as Keegs will know, I fucking love rugby, like, I like talking about it, and I bit of a nose. So, but yeah, coming back from France, I wasn't a happy camper at all.
Yeah, that's obviously a hell of an experience.
That's the first time I've publicly sewered the club like that as well and gone into detail. So make sure you send the fucking clips onto them. Might send me some cash.
It's good to hear. It's pretty horrific, I reckon, that sort of carry on, especially from an administration point of view, when your players are going out there putting their bodies on the line, and then you just don't look after them. I don't think that's great. We're sort of experiencing a little bit, probably not on that level over here in the Netherlands playing footy, but sort of understand the sort of not getting looked after when you're out there playing for the club. It's definitely frustrating. Yeah. So I can I can only imagine how pissed you were. So, but at least you've got the sunshine of Miami now. At your back, so
got my shares in the sunscreen company for a day.
I was going to say the egg's looking tidy, looking shiny.
Brown speckled egg, mate. I'm sweating my tits off here in the apartment. That's why it's shiny. Get it powdered down here.
Yeah, no, that's good though. Keegs, you want to move us through to the next part of the big man's career that we want to talk about?
Yeah, I was sort of pretty interested in your time at Connacht, Shane. You won the Guinness Pro 12 in 2015, 2016. This was obviously after Grenoble, so just how was that coming back to Ireland and playing for Connacht?
Yeah, man, it was unreal. Like, I remember when I got the phone call, Bernard Jackman, who obviously well linked at home, had played with Connacht before, had kind of given a recommendation that I come back, and I actually came back as a centre. Which is interesting because most of my career has been played at 10. But like, I think I'd struggled a small bit in France at the start to play 10. And they're like, no shape, just play. I was like, I don't know what any of the fucking words mean, so I can't direct the team around the park. So I ended up playing the centre, which was grand. But then obviously signed for Connacht and came back. And honestly, man, the jump from professional rugby in France to professional rugby in Ireland was like fucking night and day. just in terms of like the meetings, like how many meetings, how fucking into their shape they were, and how important like the teamwork was. Where in France it was like, oh, we play wide, and how do we want to get there? Oh, just get wide. It doesn't matter. I was like, all right, okay. So like that's obviously one way you can kind of argue your point all the time. Where in Connacht it was hyper detailed. Pat Lam was the coach, who was probably the most detailed coach I've ever played under, in terms of if you're on this blade of grass, you do this. If you're on this blade of grass, you do that. So that was interesting. So it was a bit of a reality shock, and honestly, I struggled a small bit for when I first got back, like in terms of confidence and stuff, like, and kind of just getting actually to the standard that I need to be at to fucking train, never mind play. And then I got a good run of games in the second half of the year. I think I played 10 games or 11 games. Missed my bonus by one game, my first season. So should have started playing better a bit earlier. But so that was obviously good. Back end of the season, came into preseason year 2 feeling pretty confident about things. And I played the first couple of games, and then I got a concussion, which was out for like 2 or 3 months for, I think. And then the back end of the season, got back in again and was playing well. 1 or 2 injuries in the 10 area kind of helped me. And I ended up starting 4 games in a row. I think it was at the age of 22 or something, which is a big deal. I got my first start away to Newcastle in the Challenge Cup. And one of the centres got injured after 10 seconds, and I ended up playing the whole game at 13 after training all week at 10. So that was a bit of a shock. But then came back, and I actually started Challenge Cup quarterfinal away to Grenoble, which was kind of a cool moment. Obviously, going back there, stadium was full, where I hadn't played in that stadium because we hadn't played Challenge Cup there at the time, but it was quarterfinal now, so they were playing there, so that was sick. And then I think we lost at the end with a drop goal or something. But played well, crossfield kick. I think it was 100% off the tee. Like things like that were going well for me. Came back, started against Ulster away, which was a cool one up there in Ravenhill or the Kingspan. And then I started against Munster at home, which was a cool one. And we won that game. So obviously coming up underage, like a few of the boys that I would have played underage with were playing against us. Like, so that was obviously, they're all the big dogs were playing. So that was a cool game. And then a few boys came back from injury, and I kind of dropped from the starting 10, but I retained my place on the bench the whole way through to the end of the year. So I think it was maybe another 5 or 6 games, which was cool. Like I played against Glasgow at home in the last game of the season, and we won that. It kicked crossfield kick in that one, the conversion, and then I think we won by about 5 or 6 points in the end, and we got a home semi-final. Sat on the bench for 80 minutes for that game. We're still happy to be on the bench. Nice little semi-final bonus, so it was all right. And then I was picked on the bench again for the final, which I was absolutely stoked about. Like, it was from me feeling like I wasn't confident enough to even be in the squad to then all of a sudden being on the bench for the final. It was fucking cool. Over in Murrayfield, and I remember coming into the stadium, and like you see when the Scottish boys walk in and the bagpipes are playing and they're all hanging over the rafters, like it was literally a sea of green. We're playing against Leinster as well, so it was all Irish people there. And they were all hanging over, and they were singing the Fields of Athen Rise. They were walking in. It was class. And I got 4 minutes on the wing, marking Luke Fitzgerald. So it was the jack of all trades back then. Shane, you're on the wing. All right, first time this year. Go on. So yeah, no, it was grand. It was a bit of crack anyway. So yeah, no, it was class day. A class few days afterwards as well. Again, I was just so young at the time, man. Like, I was just happy to kind of be there and playing. Like, there wasn't too much pressure on me in terms of thinking, oh, things should be done this way or things should be done that way. I just bought in, did what was asked of me, and it's pretty good at following the letter of the law, and kind of managed to retain my place, obviously, from playing well towards the back end of the year, even when some of the more established 10s came back. So I think probably my versatility in terms of being able to cover everywhere in the back line probably helped in that point, again, which later in my career actually came against me, because you end up being a jack of all trades, master of none. But at that time it worked. And yeah, winning that, I didn't really, like you said, didn't really know what was going on. Like, it was just kind of like, oh my God, we won the Pro 12. This is wild. Against a stacked Leinster team as well. Obviously, I played a small part in it, but the boys played class. And like, I think every bounce of the ball was going for us that year. They kick a ball, they'd bounce, we'd catch it and score. Like, you know, like things like that would happen, or we'd kick a chip and it would bounce to us, not to them. And so yeah, it was cool. It was a really cool season. Kind of been chasing, trying to get back to those kind of highs again. Ever since, like, you know, it's the first kind of taste of major success that I got in terms of, okay, you've won a professional tournament now. Even if I only played a small part in the squad, like, you're still part of it. You were still there, still tugged out in game day, got your medal, you know, got terrible pictures of my hair with the trophy. That's probably the biggest takeaway from my entire career. Get your fucking hair cut if you're playing in a final. Like, or go to Turkey beforehand and actually get it done. So yeah, lad, it was cool. And then obviously the following season, it didn't go as well in terms of the club being successful, but I think the club has been kind of chasing that high ever since now. So
Yeah, that would have been unreal. So you were there. So you were there the year after, and then, from my understanding, you got released from Connacht because you wanted to go and play for Canada. Is that correct?
well, I don't know if it's because I wanted to go play for Canada at the time. Like, I wanted to get re-signed, but I had another concussion that year, so they were starting to get, I suppose, a bit worried or whatever. And when I came back from that, like, I just didn't get a look in the squad, and I'd been involved in every game for the season. I played the first 8 or 9 games. I was on the bench for them all, but like doing all right when I came on, with the limited game time. Got concussed in training. We were doing an attack D drill, and I was running to catch the ball. Defender was coming to intercept it and collided with me. He's 20 kilos heavier than me and just got the whiplash. And obviously, instantly, he was like, "Oh, I feel fucked." And we're going to do tackle bags next. And I was like, "Why am I crying? What the fuck's going on here?" Like, just the weird symptoms. And then just kind of struggled to get back from it a small bit. Like, I haven't had a concussion like it since. Now it's like maybe 2 or 3 weeks and I'm good to go again. But back then, for whatever reason, man, it just was, the symptoms were hanging on. Came back and they just decided they were changing coach, and the new coach obviously hadn't seen me play. I'm pretty sure he didn't even know who I was. But Kieran Keane came in then from the Kiwi, and that was it. Just, I wasn't kept on, so I was released. And then that was one of the stints I went back to train with the Cookies. Because with that season finished, and I went away to make my international debut with Canada right away. So I made my debut against Georgia in Calgary, and then got 3 more caps after that, Romania and the USA twice, and then came back, and I was like, oh, well, I don't have a club now, so I'm obviously going to keep playing rugby. I'm 24 or 5 years old, joined the Cookies, and then Ealing needed a 10, so went over and joined them, I think, September, so I didn't even play a game for the Cookies that time. But I trained for 6 or 8 weeks with them. So yeah, so that was kind of how that all came about. Obviously would have liked to have stayed on. Felt like I was going decently enough in training and stuff, and had played somewhat significant part over the last few seasons, but then just that's the life. It's pretty cutthroat in professional sport. Like, if there's someone else or a young guy who maybe has age on you, and they just decide to go that way, so it is what it is. But I wouldn't change it looking back. Like, I think obviously getting to play for Canada was pretty cool. Then my missus, through playing for Canada, kind of got to live in the UK and France, and now Canada and the States. So fucking more clubs than Tiger Woods, but a lot more experience than some guys that might play their whole career at one club. Do you know what I mean? So it's been cool, man. But so that's kind of how my time came to an end at Connacht.
Yeah, right. It's I was just going to go to the obviously you're involved in the World Cup. That would have been a pretty special experience, pretty awesome. 2019 World Cup with Canada. You guys played against South Africa. I know you guys got pumped, but that would have been pretty bloody cool as well.
Most people do, to be fair.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Well, so what was it like just being involved in the World Cup and that sort of spectacle?
Yeah, man, it was probably the wildest rugby environment I've been in. Like, here's first thing, like, every country I've been to, like, all the languages are for the most part are based off Latin. So, like, we were discussing earlier, like, about like you learning Italian and stuff, and it's so different from what you would have grown up around. Where for me, like, French, like, some of the words are similar to that, like we would have had them in school and that kind of thing. So then when we went to Japan, I was literally like, I am so fucking lost here. This is a completely different universe. Like, like when it's like, it's all the shapes and like the drawings, that's their language. And you're like, I haven't got a clue. Like, you can't even hear the sounds of the words and stuff. So it's like, I don't know what's going on. Like, you literally have Google Translate open. You'd be like, how do you say this? And then you show them the phone, like, that's how you communicated. Yeah. What a rugby mad nation, bro. Honestly, oh my God, they loved it. The fans were incredible. Like, so welcoming. Like, when we landed, there was like thousands of fans there singing songs for us, like all wearing Canada jerseys. I was like, I don't know if they've employed these people or what's going on, but like, they were all obviously Japanese people, and you're like, this is mental. Every game, stadium, 50,000 people sold out, like the All Blacks, South Africa, like, and stadiums are absolutely pumped full to the rafters, like, And then obviously getting to play against those teams was fucking cool as well. Like, just seeing the standard at which they operate. It's like, it's almost like, why do I feel like we're all moving in slow motion and they're able to sprint all the time? It's like playing FIFA, but you can't hold the sprint button. Like, it was, man, they're incredible. The way they can manipulate space, how easily they move and pick weak shoulders and get offloads and just all the stuff you should be doing, but they just do it so consistently at such a fast pace. So physical. It was class. It was really cool to play against them.
Just want to touch on your World Cup there. Your pool was Italy, New Zealand, South Africa, and Namibia. Can you just talk me through what it's like in the Canadian Test week going in to play the All Blacks at a World Cup? Like, is the mentality from the coaches and everything, and everyone obviously in the team, like, right, let's just go out there and not get like 99 or 100 put on us, or like are the boys thinking we got we got goals of just getting over the line, get a 5-pointer, celebrate the hell out of that, or what's the mentality of a tier 2 nation going to play the All Blacks at a World Cup? Is sort of what I'd like to sort of
go up to beat them, mate. Go up to beat them.
Yeah.
No, I think like realistically, you're going out to play like one of the best rugby nation ever, realistically, historically, and a team at the time that were absolutely balling, like playing incredible stuff. So you go out, like you still analyze them like you would any other team, like you look for your opportunities and that kind of thing. And like, they're not perfect. Like, there was opportunities against them. It's just a matter of like, can you secure the ball well enough against these bunch of athletic freaks that are incredible at what they do. Like, they'd obviously would have like analyzed us as well, but I presume they focused mostly on themselves because, as you said, they pumped us. Look, mate, I think you get very process driven. It's like, fuck the outcome, because realistically we're going to lose. It's like, okay, how well can we do our things? So like, how well, when we look back, are we looking at our set piece, how efficient that was? How good are our lines? Are we manipulating defenders the way we're training to and we're planning to? Because realistically, if you run good enough lines, like, you will create space against anyone. So that was kind of the thing. The problem was we just couldn't get the ball. Like, they get the ball and like they'd hold it for however many phases, and like you feel okay, comfortable for 2 or 3, and then Sonny Bill Williams runs a line, takes 3 guys in, and flicks this mental offload, and you're like, all right, they're under the post again. How the fuck did he just do that, man? But I think your process still comes back to during the week. You're like, you look for your opportunities like you always would. You look at their strengths. Obviously, I think something like 71% of their tries at the time were off kick counter. So we're like, okay, we'll kick contestable against them. And you look at those kind of things. You try and make the game plan the best way you can to crack them. But obviously, like you said, the deficit in terms of their players against the players available to Canada is like, there's obviously a big deficit. Like, everyone fucking knows that, especially the players playing.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. It's it's just interesting to see from that point of view. And one of your final pool game, which was potentially going to be your best chance at a victory against Namibia, and they were searching for, from what I read, their first ever World Cup victory, but that was cancelled due to a typhoon. Were you in the area of the typhoon? Were you boys staying in that area, and like, how did that sort of go about, the cancellation being? Was it quite late, and boys slightly gutted that was probably the chance to get a World Cup win? Sort of, what was that week like, having your game sort of canned?
So it was a weird week, man, because like, we trained all week as normal, and the weather was fucking fine all week as normal up until the day before the game. Like, we'd obviously heard the typhoon was coming in, but it was like, prepare as normal. Obviously, that was the big one we were aiming for, Maybe an upset against Italy. Realistically, you're not going to beat the All Blacks or the Springboks. Like, we were realistic about that, but we were like hoping to maybe catch Italy on the bounce if they don't play well and we played well. That didn't happen. They were obviously impressive against us and put us to the sword. And then the Namibia game was the big one. We're obviously going after from the start, obviously. We prepared as normal all week, trained as normal all week, captain's run, went kicking in the stadium, like, did all that stuff. And then there was like, oh, the game might be called off. And they're, it's a fucking World Cup game, mate. It's not being called off. You're joking me. Way too much money to cancel these games. Like, they've built this stadium, like, there's no way the game's been called off. And the strange thing was, like, 2 or 3 days before, in the area we were, was one of the spots where I think it was the was it 2011 or the 2008 tsunami hit in Japan. I can't remember the name of the town right now off the top of my head, but like we were at the memorial site for that. We've seen the videos of the place beforehand. You can see the tsunami wall out in the water to break the waves in case they come back again. Like, and I was like, Jesus Christ, this is wild. We're here where this happened that long ago, and like the place is completely decimated. Like, and all the houses are like new, only like 10, 12 years old. And then this typhoon is hitting, and we're staying on the water in this hotel. It was wild, man. And then, like, I swear to God, like the curtains were blowing in the wind, even though the windows were closed. I was like lying. I was like, man, I better sleep on my back of the window here because these windows are going to break. Like, I'm going to get shards of glass into my back. Like, may as well save the moneymaker, the pretty face. So yeah, it was wild. And then I think we found out at something like 5:15 in the morning. So it's like you found out on game day, you're like, oh, fucking hell. And I think we were okay to get there, but I think from the mudslides and stuff like that, the roads were inaccessible from the Namibians part or something like that. Like we were both staying like half an hour, 40 minutes away. It's not like you stay here and the pitch is there. So yeah, it was a weird one. It was pretty anticlimactical. Some of the boys went out and helped clean up some of the area in terms of the houses and stuff, because you go into people's houses and there's water as high as your knee, like, just from the rain alone, like not even no tsunami or nothing like that. So did that, and then you do what you always do when games are called off, and you drink a load of cans in the hotel. So something to do. Like, we were there for 2 or 3 more days, so boys got around each other, had a bit of fun. In terms of the build up to World Cup, it's so fucking intense. Like, we'd been living together since June, like every day in, day out. Like, you've been away from your family, all that stuff, maybe bar a few days off here and there, the hotels, kind of camps, that kind of thing, since June till pretty much the end of, or the start of November, like. So it was, or maybe mid-October even, but it was a long time together. So like the first thing you do is you obviously blow off a bit of steam, kind of congratulate each other for the effort you put in, and then I don't know, like it was so weird. I couldn't believe it was called off because it was only windy where we are. But then you look down in Tokyo and like the subways are like full of water, like completely. Like you can't even get into the subway. There's so much water on there. I was like, Jesus Christ! I was like, are we even going to be able to go to Tokyo to fly home? That kind of thing. So yeah, it was mental. Crazy times. Another crazy swing in my career. Like,
yeah, it's an interesting week to be a part of, nonetheless.
So did you guys had to fly home straight away? You couldn't stay around and watch the finals?
No, so it's pretty much like that for everyone. As soon as you lose, you're out because you're obviously costing World Rugby money. So like, I mean, especially in the knockout games, I know like lads don't know if they're leaving or not. So you're kind of you're half packed. If you lose, you're flying out the next day. So thankfully our flight wasn't until the following evening, I think, or maybe even 2 days after. But we still traveled to Tokyo and stayed in the hotel and flew out the next day or something along the lines of that. But we obviously pick up the pieces in the next day and then pack up and head out and make the trip home, which wasn't a short one. Severely hungover, which wasn't great, but we got home eventually. So yeah, no. So that's as soon as you're done, you're out the gap, man, off the wage bill.
It's actually funny. I was talking to one of the Italian boys the other day, and I was like, "Oh, have you guys ever bet the All Blacks?" And he was like, "Nah, but we've drawn against them though." And I was like, "Bullshit. When was that?" And he was like, 2019 World Cup. The game was cancelled, and I was like, "Fuck off, bro. That doesn't fucking count. Like, that's cheese. You can't be claiming that, you fucking bastard."
We drew nil
so
all.
Proud of it too. Yeah, literally, he was like, "It was 0-0," and I was like,
right?
"Fuck, that doesn't count." Jeez. Oh, actually, we got a few more questions here for you, Shana. What does BTBTP stand for?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Is there any real questions? It's the thing we started saying back in the day. It was fucking hell. It stands for, but that's besides the point. But we started, it was me and Colm Skean and Rob Cassidy. Another fella started saying it and just started writing the letters all the time, putting on our stories of each other, and no one had a fucking clue what it meant. And we kept it going for months, and then eventually one of us let it slip or something, but no one knew what it meant for such a long time. We were getting a bit of heat for it, but it was just literally something that started one day when we were pissed. But that's besides the point. And there you go. So most good stories start, isn't it? You know.
Classic boys inside joke. I've got another one here. When did you realise John Floyd was such a reptile?
Fucking first day I met him. Me and John have been friends since we were whatever, fucking 6 years old or whatever. So I probably guess whose question it was, but yeah, since we've been young, reptiles since he was born.
That's good stuff. And then the last one, how do you get your legs so fat from a skinny dude?
Fuck's sake. Get under the bar, mate. Stop doing upper body. Do some fucking squats. I don't know. You just gotta keep progressing your training. Lift heavier than you did the last day and keep going. Some good quality questions from my good quality friends coming in here.
That's what you love.
Fucking potholes, Keegan, huh?
Potholes indeed. Well, that's sort of obviously you're in Miami now. You set up there. Season's underway. You got your first preseason. Did you say it's this week?
Yeah, this Friday, yeah, against Life University. So they're coming down from Atlanta, Georgia, down to Miami to play the game. So yeah, should be a good run out for the boys.
Yeah, and then when's the season kick off for you boys for that?
So we kick off March 3rd. We were playing at home against Chicago, who recruited ridiculously well. So should be a good game. Nice to have your first game at home, I suppose, in front of the fans or whatever. If we have any, we'll find out at the first game, I suppose. We're supposed to be the season opener on the 2nd, playing in Chicago at home, but then Inter Miami have a game, so we get pushed to the Sunday. So we don't get the season opener anymore, but we get our season opener. So yeah, respectfully, we don't like you as much as Messi. You don't bring us in millions, so you play Sunday. So yeah, I don't know, all good.
So do you guys play at the same stadium and all?
Yes, but we're not on their pitch because we would make clean shite of that. We're on a turf pitch just across the car park from it. So it'll be grand. They'll have some pop-up stands and stuff. It's not going to be a 20,000 capacity, but hopefully we get a couple of thousand fans in and get to do that. We did a promo thing for the new chip that they're using in the ball, which can show how fast the ball moves, how far you kick it, all those kind of things, which is pretty cool. The other week on the main pitch, but man, it's literally like a snooker table. It's outrageous. Every time you step in it, you can see where your studs were. Like, it was so flat. It was absolutely unbelievable. So maybe they said maybe if we make the playoffs, we might get an old quarterfinal or something in there, which wouldn't be too bad.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Very nice.
I know we touched on it earlier.
Oh, there you
go. Touched on it earlier, but I'm just intrigued about this Inter Miami and Lionel Messi thing. So they've got security everywhere, but is there a chance you'll spot them in the facility at all, or any of the other Inter Miami players? Like, do you guys intermingle like that, or
so we see the academy boys?
There's Shane O'Leary and Messi's going to be in awe. Who knows?
Shane, can I have a selfie? No, I'm actually not allowed to take a picture with you. Sorry. So we brush shoulders with the academy boys all the time. Like the senior team, like they have their gym at one end, and we're actually using the academy gym. But we've been in the away changing room so far. But I think they were away in Saudi Arabia playing the preseason games and stuff. So they'll be back in the facilities, I think, this week or next week. So look, I'm sure we'll pass them at some stage, or the club will organise for them to come in and say hola to us. But I think that, I don't know how much access they're going to give us to him. Do you know what I mean? They've got, he's worth so much money, the lad. So, they've security in every door. I didn't think it was good. I've never seen a rugby ground like it. Normally they don't give a fuck about rugby players, but I don't think I still don't think they do. They're like, have you got your accreditation to get into the building? No. Okay, what's your name? But sure, they've got loads of big dogs now. They got Lionel Messi, Luis Suarez, Sergio Busquets. They've got half the old Barcelona team when they were the dream team. So, obviously David Beckham is the big dog, so the top man. So yeah, there's fans outside the stadium all the time, just hoping to get a glimpse of it. I've never seen anything like it from a rugby world. So it's interesting to see the operation and how they operate. But yeah, the facilities are class. Our turf pitch is definitely the worst pitch there. But for the soccer players, all their pitches are class. So yeah, it's gas. But no, it'd be cool. Hopefully we get to meet some of those lads. Obviously, it's one of the perks of getting to be in the same ground as them. You know, having trained in some porridge patchy rugby pitches throughout my career, it's nice to be in a nice shiny facility. It's only a couple of years old, so
Yeah, it's beauty.
You'll just sort of have to, I reckon, try to work out their schedule, Shayna, and then just accidentally rock up and say you've got physio or something. Just coincidentally.
Stay in the changing room overnight so I can see them in the morning. Sneak in there. Oh, fucking hell.
Very good. If that's all you've got, Dickie, we've just got a few questions just to round out the podcast, but...
just got one more about Miami itself. Just so I know, obviously from Ireland, will you be spending much time at the beach, and how much of your salary will be going towards the sunblock, if that is the case?
Yeah, a bit of time at the beach. Always in the shade though. Don't you worry. Saves me a fortune. No, the good thing is I don't have to wash my hair with shampoo, so I can put that money straight towards the sunblock.
Beauty.
So kind of you break fairly even anyway. I know, down to the beach recovery days, Sundays, days off. You can be doing worse things than that. So get into the water a bit, back into the shade, stay safe. Maybe wear a hat. Be all good.
Stay out of trouble. And you're looking forward to the Miami nightclub scenes, notorious. Have there been any pre-season sort of let a little bit of steam off before the season kicks off, or have you had a bit of a look around the city?
You go for an old look, all right. A few of the boys have wandered into Miami. We're actually based in Fort Lauderdale, so like 25 minutes above Miami. So there's been a few more tipping in and around there a small bit. But we've actually been training Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So you have we've only had one full weekend off, which was last weekend, since we started. So boys are so fucked. Like if you go on the beer after one of those hard sessions, you're not necessarily recovered by the time Monday comes around again. You're already starting the week in a hole, and it's already going to be deep. But I'm sure there'll be a bit of exploring goes down in the next few weeks. All right. You start playing a few games and go off a bit of steam. Nice 2 days off, spent dying on the couch, and then back into it again.
Yeah, no, that's good.
If you're going to blow off steam, stay away from Stinger. Make sure you stay away from Stinger. He's horrific.
I asked him the question you asked me to anyway, so it was good.
Very good. I'll just round off the poddy with a few questions, Shano. Diggy, should we go one for one?
Yeah, we can do, yeah.
May as well. First one, Shane, shower or grower?
Oh, shower. Small bit of growth, but mostly there for show.
Shower. First shower we've ever had. He's proud of it as well. That's good stuff. All right, yeah. Good to hear. Couple of conspiracy ones here. I've got for you, obviously an intelligent man, sort of resembling the moon a little bit with your noggin, but do you believe the moon landing was as factual or non-factual?
Fucking hell. It's like the back of the taxi on the way home, and ask the American taxi drivers, do you believe in Bigfoot? Yeah, I think we probably landed on the moon, all right? It's not something I put too much thought into, but I'd say it probably happened.
Okay.
That's cool. Fish tacos, yes or no?
Absolutely. 100%.
With pride again. I like it.
Straight up and down character. Another conspiracy one, fitting for America, as I believe there's a few over there, but flat Earth or round Earther yourself?
I've had an interesting chat with a few people about this one. I don't think the Earth is flat, but someone gave me a good argument is you only think the Earth is actually a sphere because you've been told that. Or do you actually know it? It's an interesting point of view. But I'm not for 1 second a flat earther, so I do think it's a sphere. Just to put it out there. You might be regretting calling me intelligent now, but I thought it was a good point.
It's not a bad point, actually. It's not a bad point at all.
Point.
You just believe
You
what you're
sound
told,
like you
mate.
believe
Believe
that
what
too,
you're told.
actually, though, Shane.
He had great buy-in when he was telling me it, and honestly, for a minute, no. But he had good buy-in. I believed him.
I just had to put the question in there because I heard it asked. One of the NRL boys was asked the question, and he said he thinks it's round, but how come it's flat when we walk on it? That was his sort of. He couldn't quite understand that when you sort of zoom all the way in, that it would end up being flat. But it was just quite funny.
Technically, a circle is just a load of flat lines. They're just so small that you can't tell.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just chat's
That is absurd.
Oh, fucking hell.
We'll move on. Worst player you've ever played with?
The worst player I've ever played with.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. But there's only one direction this is coming. He used to be my favourite player, right? But then Aidan Shorthall became my favourite player very quickly, and Keegan moved slots from my favourite player to the worst player. That's lousy. You're a great player, Keegs. I don't have a worst player. Diplomatic
Fair
answer.
enough. I knew I would take the brunt of that anyways. It was a good political answer there, Shane.
You made the question. You probably asked the question. Yeah.
I've got one here. Is there another trip to Turkey on the cards?
Maybe if I get a sponsorship deal off one of the clinics, but maybe me and Messi will get 2 for 1.
I don't reckon you need it, Shane. I reckon you own that bald noggin.
Might get the boobs done though, or something. Don't have much of a chest, like. Could go for something else, you know.
True.
Float the idea out there. If anyone's listening that wants to sponsor something, let's talk.
Let's get involved.
Very good. And then last one. Why is Montiel not playing?
That is from Tommy Caceres anyway, with the tattoo of him on his calf. It's a joke, man. He should be playing. World Cup winner. We got to have him in for Forest. Just to bring some context so you boys know what's going on. He's the Argentinian lad who kicked the World Cup winning penalty playing with Forest, and he's not getting picked. Sort it out. Get the World Cup winners on.
That explains why Thomas is so upset about it.
Yeah. He's got a tattoo of him on his calf, and he's trying to get recognition in the Argentinian press so that he can get to meet him. It's so funny. He's like, I think he's injured at the moment, so maybe he doesn't read the news too much, but I hope it happens. Hopefully I get to chat with him. Like, fucking fair play, lad.
Oh, good on him. Fucking hell. No, that basically rounds us off, Shane. Thank you very much for joining in on us and sitting down having a good yarn. Really appreciate it.
Cheers for having me, lads. Good chat as always.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Shannon. Wish you all the best. All the best for the MLR season ahead, and hopefully you can meet Messi, play well, and get a couple treats, and then enjoy the nightclubs in Miami at the end of the season when you've got the chip or the shield, isn't it? It's a shield there, eh?
The shield, yeah.
Yeah,
Can't drink out of a shield.
Yeah.
Cheers, boys.
Look at you.
Too good. Cheers, Shano. Look after yourself.
Cheers, boys.
See ya.